John is in Glendale, California, on Coast to Coast AM for Bob, the international forecaster Chapman.
I just had a couple of comments, Ian, and people tend to forget that the revolution this country was based on was actually against economic oppression, against the bankers and economic interests that control the crown in England.
Right.
They forget that. They also tend to neglect that when Samson brought down the temple against the Philistines, that most of those Philistines were merchant princes that were oppressing Israel economically.
Well, I get that connection that you're making there. I think almost all wars in one form or another are about money. So, yeah, I think you're right. You had a question for Bob Chapman?
Well, just does he foresee any further changes in the bankruptcy in which they kind of circumvent the constitutional rules we have against putting people in prison for debt?
Okay.
Well,
Bob?
it could come to that, but I don't think so. And some of the safety valves that are being used is the resettlement of debt, and you hear the ads on the different programs all the time for that. And but I think that debt in general is not going to get worse. I think the situation is going to get better, but it's so overwhelming that there's going to be an awful lot of damage done for a long time, particularly in the United States because of the leverage used by individuals as well as companies and government. And
That's
so
right.
it's going to be an ongoing thing.
I want to try and get about 4 callers in, so I'm just going to ask everybody to keep their questions short, and we'll keep our answers short, and we see if we can get the 4 people that have been hanging on the longest in before the top of the hour for Bob Chapman, the international forecaster. Michael?
Hi, how are you?
Good, go ahead.
I believe, you can comment on this, that we're in a severe recession. Government actions have been feeble and symbolic at best, and I think we're reaching a point where we're moving from too big to fall to too big to resolve, where insurance companies, Wall Street, banking interest, oil companies are absorbing our economy itself at the detriment of taxpayers, and they're throwing everything at but the kitchen sink to these interests. And you can see it in the healthcare debate, where they're spending millions a day to fight any kind of change that, 14,000 people lose their health care daily. And isn't that what's happening is multinational conglomerates are just absorbing our economy itself?
I think that's a fair statement, and I think it will continue, and it's going to get more and more difficult as we go along. I think some of the problems with large corporations, particularly in the financial area, will be shrouded by the enormous money and credit that's being created. And, the independent investigator come out the other day and said Treasury and Fed are on the hook for $23.7 trillion. I mean, anybody that thinks that that's not going to cause inflation is missing the boat. But ultimately what will happen is hyperinflation will end once it begins, and it will begin soon. Once it stops, we go into deflation. What they should have done in the first place is going to happen, and it's going to be worse.
All right, and that brings us to another Brad in Syracuse on Coast to Coast. Brad?
Morning, Ian. Morning, Mr. Chapman. Very important show. I appreciate it. My question to you, sir, is I have some Roth IRAs, which is a vehicle that's a non-taxable event when you go to cash them in. I'm just wondering, do you think the government will ever change that rule? Because I got like 3 and my wife has 3, and I was wondering, I have an opportunity to cash them in now. Do you think I should do that? I have other investments too.
Right.
And then what should I buy?
Well, yes, if you're over 59 and a half, I would definitely contemplate it, and I would space it year to year, and I would take the proceeds and go into gold and silver related assets.
And let's see, we have Bill in Tucson, Arizona, first-time caller line on Coast to Coast AM. Bill?
I am so honored to be with you. This is the first time I've ever reached you.
Oh, good.
Here's my situation. I'm with a company called Baird. They're a very big investment firm.
Right.
I have $300,000 worth of gold Canadian maple leaves.
Yeah.
They are in New York City. I am in Tucson, Arizona.
Yeah.
Am I in a big bind, trouble, having it that way, or should I do it a different way
Okay.
to get possession of my gold?
All right. Let's ask Bob. Go ahead, Bob.
Is the gold in an IRA or a retirement plan?
Hold on a second. I got to get Bill back up again. IRA or retirement plan, Bill?
IRA, sir.
Okay.
Are you over 59 and a half?
I am 59.
In 6 months, take delivery of your coins, pay the taxes, because you're going to have to pay them someday if, in fact, you're in a winning position, and take delivery.
Okay.
And then put it where?
In a safe in your home.
And don't forget the combination, which is what I did with a safe in my home. We put a safe in, and we all forgot the combination. And
Well, you blame it on your wife, is what you do.
well, yeah, but she beat me to the punch. It was my fault before I could say tag you're it. She got me. Let me get to Jason in Colorado Springs, probably second to last caller. Go ahead, Jason.
Good morning. Thank you, gentlemen, for taking my call. Real quick, in relation to the Japanese billionaire smugglers, right before Bush left office, he signed into order over like 360 some odd billion to be generated. And I remember Katie Couric reported like a week later that they lost half of that money. And ironically, it comes to be like the same total number that the Japanese people got caught smuggling like so many months later. And I was wondering if you knew anything on that, or if anybody had caught that or heard anything about it.
Well, I hadn't, but that is very strange. Bob?
I did, and I never heard any more about it. And I don't know that there was a connection, but it seems strange that it would happen at the same time. So the answer is there probably is a connection, but we'll never know because they're not going to let the information out.
Well, I mean, I knew that there was the story with the Japanese businessman, but I didn't know it matched the amount of the missing funds from someplace else. That's right. That's a good thing to know. Richardson.
Well, how about when Congress asked the head of the Federal Reserve what happened to $2 trillion, and he said, I don't know.
Right, yeah.
I mean, you got to be kidding me.
Richard's in Northern California on Coast to Coast. Richard?
Hi, Ian. I want to thank you very much for having me on tonight, and I want to thank Bob and Judy for the hard work they put into the International Forecaster. I tell you, I've been following Bob's newsletter since 1995, and I'm telling you, it is one of the most.
How rich are you now? How rich are you now after following all of Bob's advice?
Well, let me put it to you this way. I'm not any poorer than I was when I first started getting it, but I'm not going to be caught with my pants down. How's that?
Okay. All right. Well, fair enough.
Anyway, Bob, thank you very much. It's an honor and a privilege, and I just want to say this. This newsletter that you put out, what you charge for that, it does not do it justice. What an honor it is to have your newsletter. Thank you for that. My question is this. How soon are we close to receiving news and implementation of the AMERO, the North American Union?
Oh, we've already hit that a couple of times, so I'm sorry you missed the previous.
Yeah, I apologize about that.
That's all right. That's all right. But
we're not close. And
we're not close.
We can leave it at that.
Leave it right there. So this leaves it up to me, and thank you everybody who I'm stranding or other people that try to get through at the very end. For Bob Chapman, the international forecaster. We'll leave it here, but what would you say we should be looking for? I got about 30 seconds. What do you think we should be looking for next? What's the next sign that you want to predict that we could keep an eye on and then give you a buzz back on when it happens?
Dollar is coming down, and it's going to be a semi-crisis proportions. It'll be a beta event for what's going to happen in the future. It could end up this fall in a bank holiday for a short period of time. And I think that sideways on the economy next year. The government numbers, the lies are so preposterous that even the economists who have gone along with the program are saying, we can't do this anymore. And so you're going to see the government being told, you got to stop it, you got to give us the truth.
All right. We'll be watching for that. Thank you so much, Bob Chapman. I always like the truth on this show, and good way to end. I hope you make it a great weekend that you have in front of you. And until next week, when I'll be on doing the double duty that George is doing tomorrow night on Coast to Coast AM, Deus Te Amat, and I do too.